Hey everyone, and welcome back to Above the Tree Line. We are now in season 2, and so I'm so glad to welcome you guys back. We have a very special guest today. It is Miss Candy Coburn. She is a country western music artist, also a worship leader, a prayer leader, and we have the privilege of sitting down with her today and hearing a little bit about your story. So before I get started, I have to tell you, I did look you up on Wikipedia, and this is something I did many years ago because you and I had led worship together back at ACF Lake Travis a long time ago. I didn't know who you were at that point in time. And then one day I Googled you and I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is like, she's like a thing. And I'm not a big country person, so I don't know these things, but I'm just going to tell you, it says Candy Coburn is an American national performing country music artist who has shared the stage with many notable artists. I'm going to throw out just a couple. There's Brooks and Dunn, Kelly Pickler, Blake Shelton. You've shared the stage with these people. So it's so cool that's the arena where you've been, and now you are in ministry, like you work in ministry. And so I want to get to that, where that transition came in. But first, just start us off. Tell us, who is Candy Coburn? Where is she from? What made you you?
Well, I hope you guys have some time. Thanks for having me on. I love you so much. And some of that stuff, it's so funny because people put things online and you're like, okay, that's kind of it. I've been more of kind of like a rockin' kind of maybe country-ish person, but I'm from Kentucky. So when you're from Kentucky, everything's a twang. So you're going to be put in the country category no matter what you do. So I was raised in a little town or a small area, Western Kentucky, Murray, Kentucky. My grandmothers were huge influences in my life. Grew up in church from day one.
What kind of church?
It was First Nazarene, some Baptist thrown in there, some Pentecostal. I mean, like kind of a good mixture of all the churches down there, but they were just old school country churches. So like when I was 3, my grandmother that sang every single weekend had me singing in church at 3.
Oh.
And you could do that back then.
Yeah.
It was just like old country churches, and grew up on only gospel and country. That's it. My grandmother was very strict. So she wouldn't let us listen to the radio.
Were you raised by your
Pretty much
your
my grandmother's raised me and my
Okay.
sister. My parents got divorced when I was very young. So, and then my dad was in Houston, Texas, so I was kind of in Kentucky and Texas most of my life, and then grew up singing. But the thing is, my entire life, I was kind of said, sing this song, Candy, sing this song, Candy, my whole life until even probably into my 20s, until I thought about like, hey, someone said, what do you want to sing about?
Right.
So I'd never written a song until in my 20s. And really never played an instrument great. Grew up, went to school on a music scholarship to University of Missouri. Didn't want to be a teacher. Would have been a horrible teacher. So
You went there to study teaching?
Yes, no, to study music.
Oh, to study music.
Yeah, I went there
Okay.
on a vocal scholarship, and I, competed for music things my entire life.
Okay.
It was kind of the only thing I was good at. I wasn't good at math and science, so I was like, okay, whatever else,
All right.
here we go. So I had a great teacher in high school that really encouraged me, and then I, went to this University of Missouri on a vocal scholarship, got there, did opera for a year.
Wow.
And the coach,
I'd like to hear that.
You would not want to hear that. I hated every minute of it. And it was again, and you'll see this pattern as we talk today about people pleasing. I learned very young, if I could perform and get an atta girl, that was like an endorsement, like, ooh, this feels good. I'm going to do that. So, moving forward, music wise, I did music mostly on the side because I had to quit school and college and work. I paid my way through college, and, so I did all kinds of jobs in sales and everything, but I kind of still was doing music on the side.
Just like performing places?
Yeah,
like
performing different
gigs?
places, doing different things. Got involved with my church there in Columbia, Missouri, Woodcrest Chapel, which is my good friend Pete Van Ward was the pastor. And so I was involved with that, so it was always kind of a sideline thing, but I had goals of actually finishing school and doing music full time. So I'd bought a place in Nashville to live there and finish school, and that was my plan, to get a music business degree there. And then met my husband. So that kind of turned the corner there. I didn't end up living and going to Nashville, actually. Ended up working, and while he was in school, going through that. And then we planned on moving to Austin, and that...
Because of music?
Yeah, because of music and just loving it here. So
the music capital of the world.
And it was really kind of, where I felt like I was a good fit, Texas, versus Nashville. But that turned as well. So we moved to Missouri. Then I started traveling back and forth to Nashville and working there all the time. Started touring, started doing my own music, and Had two amazing boys, and then it was on the road full time.
So you had your boys when you were touring.
I was already doing music. I had my first son, and then I was doing music like regionally, and would literally have him on my hip, going around taking pictures or posters around, you name it. And then I was playing all the time, and then I had my second child. And when I had my second child, I couldn't really be in smoky bars anymore playing music.
Right.
So I started writing music, and I started writing with some good writers, and then I would do just acoustic shows by myself out at all these places while I was pregnant. So it was pretty hilarious to get, used to seeing like what people think about songs at places like that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of that trajectory. And then I got really involved with working in Nashville and touring. And I did that and did about 150 shows a year.
Wow.
I worked my way up from like a Pathfinder in a trailer to a van in a trailer to finally a tour bus.
The bus.
But I was always an independent artist. And I had like all these employees that were my employees as a business owner. So I had a lot of endorsements by big companies like Anheuser-Busch, Texas Roadhouse, California Pete's Kitchen, Susan G. Komen for The Cure. I wrote their theme song. So I started
the
writing
Pink
songs.
Warrior.
Started writing a lot of songs for other companies and campaigns that helped pay for my tour. But all those things, I was doing all that, and that's kind of that message, obviously. And I loved it. I loved playing live. I loved recording albums. I loved my people that worked for me. I had two people that worked for me almost 10 years. So it was a family, and we really did that, and it was wonderful, and I learned so much, and it just, I just kept growing. But in the meantime, getting to the story of the story is that I think we're talking about today is kind of, how does that work in your life and in your heart?
Were you a Christ follower throughout that whole phase? Like, did you continue to be stay engaged in church? I know it's hard if you're traveling. And
Well, I think the thing is like, there's a difference between a relationship with the Lord personally and religion. And I think what I was raised with was, a real understanding of religion. Like, here's the rules, Candy. Don't mess them up. Right. And if you do, you just might as well go crazy because, like, if you're going to be bad, just go for it.
So more like works-based?
Well, I would say, like, my grandmothers were very strict Baptist, folks. And so, like, the rules were the rules. You didn't mess them up. They had great intentions, and it's actually my roots of where I came back to.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I was raised, too. Like, there was, like, an element of fear in there, like fear of messing up.
Yeah, or God's not exactly fatherly and lovey. He's more like, this is the rules, girl. Figure it out,
break the rules. Yeah.
So I kind of grew up with that more of the not loving father feeling, know. But the thing is, over time, I always seek the Lord. I was always trying to be involved in church and still do worship and all this stuff. But in the meantime, I had all these kind of isms or addictions-ish things from so young. And we can get into that, in the next segment, I think. But from an early age, I was always trying to feel different.
You were trying to feel different.
Like, from food to not eating to all these things, that were just crazy and going on in my life, which I didn't really understand that I was trying to kind of medicate how I was feeling, So all this time throughout my career, I had really never had any issues with like drinking before a show or anything like that, and that was not really my thing, even though I was sponsored by a big, huge company.
Yes.
They paid me money to promote a beverage. And so, not until really later on did I realize, like I had kind of like gotten really lost of who I was, what was I doing things for. Mainly the answer was like, for everyone's approval.
Right.
And I think you start to kind of lose, and it's really tough in this business because you have all these people saying, hey, wear this, do this, hire these people, and you kind of start modifying yourself.
Yeah.
And
your success depends on whether or not they like what you're doing.
Certainly in Nashville, and I have nothing against Nashville now, but it was just probably not the right match fully for me because I kind of did things a little bit different. And then they would just say, okay, do this for this photo shoot, do this for this album. Make it sound more like this, get this person to play for you. It was just constant like outside voices of what they thought you should be. And when you're in that position and you don't fully know who you are, it's pretty like a vulnerable spot.
Yeah.
So you kind of are taking this advice from people that look like that they know what they are doing. But what I found later is that, you have to surround yourself with people that actually really believe in who you are and also will tell you the truth when you're not doing so great.
Right.
So I had some people that really were just yes people in my life. And so what happened to me, to give you kind of a fast forward is, I have this wonderful husband. I have two kids. I'm touring. Everything looks super shiny and wonderful. My name's on the freaking bus. Like,
that's
woo, let's
so
roll
cool.
down the highway. And if you don't know who I am, let me tell you, And it looked great.
Yeah.
But the problem is that behind closed doors, it was not like that at all. It was very sad. It was, my marriage was a mess. My boys were on the road with me all the time. They grew up literally on the road, like in every major stage across the country. They say they love it. They think that it's great now. But for me, I'm like, oh, wow. That was very different for a kid to grow up that way. And, you know, mom's always working, and I was working on a different schedule than anyone in the universe, pretty much where I lived. So my weekend was like, maybe Tuesday, you know, and then I was back out on the road. So,
do you homeschool your boys during this time?
No, they were in the public school, but they actually knew my job and they worked with me all the time on it. And so it was really a unique time. But I will say what happened though is that the farther I got into this, the more I got away from understanding like where my true like purpose and identity was, which was really always the Lord. We would be involved in a church, but not really go, or just pop in, pop out, not really, you know, invested in any way or plugged in. So, because I was on the road every weekend. Right. So that was kind of like this side thing. So I felt like I kind of had almost kind of a two life thing going on, right? So here's all my good things I'm doing. Here's all the great things. Everybody's giving, oh, way to go, Candy.
Yeah, and you're checking the boxes.
I'm checking all the boxes. Right. I'm doing all the things that the good book says on paper. But my heart was definitely divided. And I felt like it was this divided space of like, my heart was not fully believing that I was a daughter of the King. So I don't think it was even a language I knew, you know? And I think I was just like, I got to hustle. I mean, that's all I know is to hustle and keep getting to the next thing so I can keep getting a benchmark to say that I'm somebody, you know? But what it was very shallow. It was very unfulfilling and no contentment, you know? So this became a problem with life in general, I think, and it does for a lot of people that do this business, you know. So then I'm out more, and then my husband's not as involved, and then more people come in on my team, and he has less of a voice. And so we had really major problems, and even were fully in different homes, you know, separated, and our kids were going through this horrible time, and I was trying to tour during it. And if you just look at like the map of my life, you know, getting to that spot, I would have never, ever believed that's where it would go. But it's so subtle. And I think the enemy does it subtly. He doesn't do it. The
enemy is very subtle.
He's so subtle and like, this is so attractive. Just a little more of that or whatever. And so what happened is we both had just got to this place of, you know, just being so sad and didn't know what to do about it. Saw tons of counselors, nothing against counselors, but we finally found a counselor that was actually this amazing man. And he sat us down, and he was really like hardcore. He made us do homework and really sit knee to knee and do these things. And I was like, it was the most brutal work we ever did as a couple, you know.
But I'm so glad that you guys decided to keep working at it because
tough.
It's so often in like the different like entertainment industries, like marriages just crumble because like you said, they're divided. There's like conflicting priorities. There's like kids involved. And like, I think the kind of the modern day equivalent of that, I think we're seeing it with like influencers right now, the people who want to be influencers. Like everything is about like, are you approving of what I'm doing? Like, love me, give me likes, share. And we're seeing this like increase in mental health issues and just this emptiness because it's identity. At the root of it, it's identity.
And I'm so glad I wasn't in the era of that because I think it would have been worse. You know, there were some things like it back in the day, like this Nashville Star Show or whatever. And we had these, you know, forums that people would just say these horrible things about you. And so I can't imagine being in today's era of that. But, you know, moving forward, God sent us that counselor exactly when he did. And here's the thing that I'm not going to go into all of it because it's not important really now, but, you know, we all come from where we came from. Yeah. And neither Mark nor I had parents that had been married very long. I mean, my dad had been married 4 times. His dad had been married several times.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't know what marriage was either. So I think having those, like, we didn't have any mentors at the time. We didn't know we should about like having a mentor of like a couple that had a strong marriage and how do we do this and how do we work through it? How do we stay close together? Now I have those that are amazing here at ACF, you know, Gudrun and Ben and, you know, Aaron and George and so many, but we didn't know to even have that back then, you know, and I think now it's great to be able to pour that into young couples of saying, hey, who's your people? Right. Are you talking to them about everything? You know, are you really bouncing this off like a true, somebody's going to tell you the truth. Right. And so that was amazing that we made it through that. And, you know, all of us. And then we got to Texas, and it was really, you know, I changed gears completely. I came off the road full time. And that was a huge change for me. And then and just to tell you about the future walk over to ministry, it was like basically I went over to a church that I adored. It was a little startup church in a school. And I was in the back row, and we just popped in there because we've been church hunting all over the town. But I'd taken a break from, from touring and was just doing some local residencies, but I was also trying to get sober. And it was very difficult. It was so difficult to do anything without a drink at that time. And so I went in this little church. I was in the back of the church. And later on, it's a couple weeks in or something. And the worship leader finds out that I used to tour. And so she's like, hey, can we go have a coffee? And I was like, sure. And so she's like, hey, I would love for you to be on the worship team. And I was like, I can't do that. Because during that era of my life, I was actually doing things in the church when I was totally not okay. Mm-hmm. And it was about performance. It was about this, not this. And I just told her so openly, I said, hey, here's the deal. Unless I can do it like from my heart for real, like authentically, I can't do it at all. And she was so wonderful to me. She's like, okay, no problem. Just let me know. And so what they did to me, it was so sweet. They let me play my music for other events that was secular music for me to just feel a part of.
Right.
And it was such love to me during that time. And I just basically stood in the back of the church for probably it feels like almost 2 years, just crying my face out, learning how to worship again. Because I had no concept of it for maybe ever, I don't know. And I just learned how to do that. And then it was like, okay, I think I can maybe do a Sunday. It was so funny. But what was cool is then, you and I were at that campus, a small campus for ACF at Lake Travis. And how that happened was God, because how I even knew about that church was so only God. A person I knew from the 12-step program was friends with Pastor Chris and said, hey, we need somebody to come in and do some worship on a Sunday. And they contacted me, and I was like, I don't think anybody's going to want what I got to throw out there. I'm not very Carrie Jobish or anything. And so they were just loving and kind and said, you just come be you.
Yeah.
And that's how it all happens, when we do say yes to the Lord and when we do start walking with him. But it's so messy, and it's so just day by day, need to know basis, I think. And that's really how it's been, and it still is for me, because I still keep trying to learn. I certainly didn't go to any kind of worship big schools or things like that, and sometimes or seminary, And I think sometimes I feel like, that's the enemy's best lie to many of us in ministry. Like, you don't have these credentials, so you're not actually qualified to do this.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been ordained, and I didn't go to seminary. And furthermore, I'm a woman. And if you're raised in a Southern Baptist church, that's not something they condone. So same thing where I'm like, oh, I'm not qualified. I don't have the credentials. I don't have the certificate on the wall. And the enemy he will come at you all the time. And he'll be like, you don't belong here. I know your sin. I know who you are.
Right. Or what we did before, how could we get up and stand up there and say what, but it's all our testimony, because that's it. At the end of the day, just like every one of those broke down people in the Bible, thank goodness he gave us that book. It shows us it doesn't matter. I mean, Mary Magdalene, all the things. I mean, she's my jam, you know, because that was me, a hot mess in every way. And I tell people this all the time, 11 years ago, you wouldn't have wanted to be my friend. It was a mess. My life was a mess. Everything was a mess. But that is the miracle of what God can do if we start walking with him, if we just keep trusting him. My marriage is the best it's ever been in my life. My husband wants to greet in front of the church. I mean, it's insane. We adopted a sweet daughter. I have my 2 boys that are out in Dallas now, and
they bring their friends to church.
They bring the whole row to church. It's just it's so cool, because I didn't do any of that. I have nothing to do with any of that. That's all God's mercy, grace, and love that is just stunning to me all the time. So, every day I'm just like, it's still hard. There's still hard days. There's still hard situations. Life still goes on. But I know now that I have this evidence to give me confidence of anything that's going on, that we are going to be all right. And we just have to keep leaning in. And also we have to expect fiery arrows sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we're out there trying to love on people. And when we do that, it's like, oh my gosh, he wants to just shut up. So we're going to get him. And I some days forget that.
Yeah.
And I always say my forgetter is really good, but my rememberer is tough. And so I think it's about the remembering, of his goodness and just knowing he's got us. no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when we talk about the fiery arrows of the enemy, your shield is what extinguishes those. And I've been researching more about this shield because at first I was thinking like Captain America's shield, like hold it up and like the fiery
I'm
arrows.
a Wonder Woman gal, so totally all the.
So but the shields that they would have in battle in the Bible were held up by multiple people.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
To extinguish the fiery arrows took a team of people to hold up this shield.
Totally.
So it's about, and I think that's something that you've even taught me. It's about community. It's about having accountability partners. It's about having people who will pray for you. It's about having people, what do you say, who will like reveal your blind spots to you. And it's that group of people, like, but they don't judge. They're like, okay.
They're your ride or die club. That's
Yes.
what I call it. Because you need those to be like, hey girl, let's take a look at this. Because we're just human people. And it never gets like, we never graduated out of all this stuff, knowing it and having it down. And I think that's the beauty of community in our church and everything we do together, because you can be messy and vulnerable, and you have to have a place to do that.
Yeah. And so you've become like kind of a mighty voice in ACF's prayer ministry. Like we've got the prayer barn. It just looks like Candy Coburn. It's red. It's got smiley faces around
all
it.
day.
We've got music in there.
right.
We've got prayer in there. But do you know how many days now we've been doing daily prayer?
It's close to 2,000, somewhere in that number range or something. But it's so cool to see what God did with that little spot. And I'm so honored and humbled to have been any part of it, and he just keeps using it for good. And it's really such a small little, it's just a place that's just such a little sweet, like Holy Spirit hotspot.
Yeah.
And it just feels, every time I walk in there, it feels like going into my grandmother's church back when I was a kid. It has almost like a faint smell of it, or like, and maybe that's Holy Spirit smell, I don't know. But it's like every time I go in, I'm like, I have that comforted, peaceful feeling of that Holy Spirit resides there all the time. And it feels just so like it just is comforting for me. And so I just am so grateful to be a part of that place in any way. And I'm just always kind of like, thank you, Lord. I can't even believe we get to do this in here, And
our Wednesday night live is pretty spectacular,
so sweet,
because you can walk in and it's, you'll see like you have the music and a bunch of like interesting, like not interesting, but like sometimes we'll have like a banjo in there. Sometimes I have a trumpet in there, like a bunch of different instruments.
Flute,
yes. And then
everything.
we also have people
Harmonica.
in the corner who are like painting as the music is going on. We have people who are like signing. We have people who are like on their knees, like seeking healing. And then you look over on the side wall and you've got the list of people that we're praying for healing, that our cancer list, and then our other healing list. And then we've got our unemployment that we're praying for. And then we've got the prodigals we need to come home. And so it's like, it's really cool to see how ACF has shined this spotlight on the power of prayer and the freedom that comes through prayer, and the way you guys keep track, like Chris calls it connecting the dots. We keep track, like we prayed for this, God did this, like never lose sight of what he's done. Speak it over other people because he can do it for someone else too. And I mean, that's really just kind of been y'all's little creation over there.
I just am honored all the time. And the thing that I think that I've learned the most about prayer, and it took so many years, I'm so old now to get it finally, but like prayers are timeless. So my grandmother's prayed for me to be free, like who knows how many years, especially my one grandmother. And she didn't get to live to see it here on earth, but she sees it from heaven. And it's like, I know that, And so if anyone's praying for anything, it's not on our timeline, and it's no prayers wasted. And everyone matters, and they're all kept in heaven. So like that is the thing that I would say to anyone that feels like, oh, my prayer's not been answered. Come on, like, come on, cha-ching, let's do the vending machine. Like right now, God has his own perfect timing for every single thing. And if we're faithful and we really pray with all our whole hearts, he already has it. And so I think that's something I've really learned from spending that many hours in a place that's of prayer. And it also does another thing. When you do practice this kind of prayer life, it equips us for outside the church walls. And that's what I'm really doing now, because I'm not there on staff full time anymore. I get to be this great part of the Wednesday Night Live. But what happens now is it gave me this boot camp of like when I go outside in the world of every single setting, if the Lord says to me, and always feel kind of like a little gut feeling of like, hey, go pray for them, and it's like, what, Lord?
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm not scared to do it.
Right.
I'm not at all.
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, I don't even know, but can I just pray a blessing over their life? And it hasn't ever been
no
a
one's
case
ever
where everybody's
refused.
like, nope, you can't.
But you got to exercise that muscle.
But you just have to believe the Lord
Mm-hmm.
needs us here so much to just see them and make contact with them, like with real skin down here on the regular. And I think that was it was so beautiful to see it, because I don't think I ever would have had that courage had I not been in there hunkered down praying for so many years during that time. And, we went through COVID during this thing and all that. And it's just God was working a beautiful thing out. And it's so powerful. So I'm just really grateful for it.
Yeah. Well, it's cool to see your fingerprints all over it.
Well,
Miss Candy Coburn, you got your own flavor, your own style.
Some like it, some don't.
There's a little
but
bit of
Lord,
red.
The Lord likes it, I think.
Because red's your color. That's like...
It is
Yeah.
what I feel like is my color right now.
It is your color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you
love
so
you.
much. We went a little bit over, but
Okay.
your story is so fascinating, and the transformation in your life. I mean, just to tell people that it may look this way on the outside, but I've been in this broken place, but God,
Yep.
look at how he redeems, look at how he over redeems.
And there's nothing you could ever do that he's not going to be like, you're washed brand new. You're totally... You're worth everything, and you're a one-of-a-kind model, and I need you, and I need your voice, and I need what you bring. So nothing you've done in your past ever can stop you from what he's got,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Candy.
Love
it's
you.
so awesome
You
to hear all
bet.
this and get to sit with you and chat.
You too, girl.
So thank you guys so much. I want to thank our listeners and our viewers. Y'all are so amazing. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any other questions for Candy, you can submit them at acfellowship.org/podcast. And I just want to, since we're talking about prayer, if you guys need prayer at acfellowship.org. That's our prayer email address. You can go on our website to our prayer page. You can make a prayer appointment. We're a praying church, and we want to pray for you guys. So whatever you're walking through, don't walk through it alone. We are here for you. But I thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on an episode next week.